Today on AGetc, we start off talking soil health with Tom Roth, who's with the Natural Resources Conservation Service. Then Dr. John Foltz, who is the chair of the Department of Animal Services at Ohio State University, talks to us about the strategies and challenges of becoming the new boss.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
Okay, my name's Tom Roth. I work for the Natural Resources Conservation Service. Actually, when I started working, it was known as the Soil Conservation Service. I've got 35 years of service to date. Have worked pretty much all over the state of Kansas and moved down to our state office in Salina 3 years ago. I was the Conservation Stewardship Program Manager for a year. And then the happiest day of my life was the year I got to become the state agronomist because I wasn't dealing with CSP anymore. Three things that I'd like for people to take away from my talk today. Well, it works out real good because we're doing forage, soil health, and soil microbiology. So forage, we have collected 10 sample points out of our plots that we have been seeding. Mainly we deal with warm season and legumes, so some of it's pretty intuitive from the quality standpoint. The grasses have a little more fiber, the legumes have a little more crude protein. Some of the brassicas have real good forage quality, but cattle are not real happy about eating them, so we kind of have to work those into some type of mix. The next part we've been working on is doing soil health measurements. The test that we use was developed by Dr. Rick Haney with ARS down at Blackland Experiment Station. That looks at organic carbon, organic nitrogen, carbon dioxide respiration, which is a proxy for biological activity. And then Dr. Haney developed a formula so that we can arrive at a number. The number is kind of important. The really important part of it is taking that number and seeing how it's changing over time. Are the management decisions you make on your farm increasing or decreasing that number? And then the number in and of itself kind of is nice to know, but there's other information on that test that can help guide you in some of your decision making. The last part of my talk is probably one of the most dynamic parts of soil health right now, and that's soil microbiology. So what we're looking at there, it's called phospholipid fatty acid analysis. Those compounds are found in all cell walls, and they degrade rapidly when those cells are no longer viable. And we're measuring bacteria, protozoa, and fungi. And the fungi that we're really interested in is that arbuscomycorrhizal fungi because it helps form associations with the roots. And there are things that can happen when those associations are formed. So those are the three things we're working on. Some of them aren't really all that new. Some of them are pretty cutting edge. And I certainly hope that somebody would like to come and listen to us talk.
Sure Crop Fertilizers was started by my father, Don Sherman, and my mother, Shirley Sherman. Family business that started in the 80s. We predominantly focus on plant nutrients and what we can do to give growers better responses with the fertilizer dollars that they do, and what we can do to make those things work better for the grower. We're based out of Seneca, Kansas. We work with growers in their soil analysis to figure out what they need, and then we can put those in a blend that gives them the best results, and so that we can deliver that direct to their farm so that they have those nutrients where they need them, when they need them, and so that they can apply them in a manner that's very efficient to them and works well in their planting systems and what they're doing. Sure Crop Fertilizers has been around for a long time. We always say we're big enough to take care of everything you need, but yet we're small enough to do it quickly. You can get a hold of us at 1-800-635-4743. Our website is surecropfertilizers.com, and you can always email me at corey@surecropfertilizers.com, and with any questions you have, we'll be glad to answer it and work with you.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Wheat. Learn more at rediscoverwheat.org.
Put together a plan. We've figured out how we're going to transition the business from the younger generation or the older generation to the younger generation. One of the things that happens with that is somebody's going to end up becoming a new boss. And so this topic applies to almost everybody. At some point, you may take on a new responsibility where you're going to be the new boss. You've got a new job. Either you've been hired internally or you came in from the outside, and there's some real challenges there. So I'll give you my own story. I graduated from Ohio State in 1979, and I got my master's degree there in 1981. Worked for Purina for a number of years. Then I decided to go back to school, became a Boilermaker, got my PhD at Purdue, and then I moved to the University of Idaho. I was on the faculty at the University of Idaho for almost 30 years. And this job came open at Ohio State, and they hired me. And I thought, well, I went to school there, my family's from there, I'll come back, sure. It's been awesome, but I will tell you it's not been without its challenges. So Ohio State has grown a lot in those years. Columbus, Ohio never was a sleepy little bird, but it's a big metropolitan city. And I'm thrown now into a department where I've got these 600 undergraduate students. I've got 120 employees that report to me, 40 faculty and 80 staff. We've got 11 farms. Wow, and I had been the dean of the College of Agriculture at the University of Idaho, and my department at Ohio State is about 3/4 of the size of the whole college that I was dean of out in Idaho. So I'm now the new boss. I thought, well, I teach business management, or I've done research in that area. Surely somebody's written a book on that. So I found this book, and I would highly recommend it to you. It was written by Michael Watkins, who's a professor at Harvard, and the title appealed to me. It says the first 90 days, but he says that you have to hit the ground running, and we'll walk through some of his ideas here, and I found it great fodder for what I did starting at Ohio State. So he covers 10 areas to create momentum for success, and I have used every one of them, and I can say that they were very helpful. And whether you come up through the business and now you're thrown into the boss's role and you know all your friends and people that you used to be colleagues with and now you're the boss, I mean, there's challenges all around. So let's dive into this, and if you've got questions or comments along the way, I'm sure some of you have experienced some similar things here, or you maybe tried some things that might have worked for you. We could take those comments along the way as well. So the first thing that Dr. Watkins suggests is to prepare yourself. And I would not downplay this at all. So for me coming in, and particularly after coming back to Columbus, Ohio, after having been gone for almost 30 years, I really did have to prepare myself mentally. But I had to take a break from my old job because I was going to be jumping into something that was very different. I'm an ag economist. I know how those people think. I had never been in an animal sciences department. And so I helped run a meat lab. We have 2 dairies. We milk 200 cows. I mean, there's a lot of things that we're doing in this department that I never dealt with before. So I had to prepare myself as I was leaving that old job to look forward to this new job, and I had to really put myself in the position or take a mental break. And the point that he makes is that it might be the biggest pitfall coming into a new job. What has made you successful in the past, will it continue to make you successful? Maybe, maybe not. The new job may require a different skill set and or tactical ability to work with and manage people. So I'm a Boy Scout. I'm an Eagle Scout. Threw this in there because of the be prepared part of it. But the point that the author makes is that you need to prepare yourself for this new job. Some of the things that you did in the past may not be what you're doing in the future. You may need to think about that. And what are the things that I'm going to have to do to be successful in this new job?
KFRM is one of the largest farm radio stations in the nation, dedicated to informing and entertaining rural listeners from northern Oklahoma to southwestern Nebraska. You can catch KFRM in many ways, of course, 550 on the AM dial, streaming at kfrm.com, or on your smartphone by going to the TuneIn Radio app, or on Ag AM in Kansas on Tuesdays and Facebook every day of the week. KFRM, tune us in. You'll be glad you did.
This is one of my favorite bits that I make. The name I give this bit is the Derby bit. I had a roan head horse that was running through the bridle with the chain bit, and I made this bit here. It really worked good on that horse. I sent this bit to Donnie McNeese, who breaks in cattle for Jeff Smith and Ike Cox. And I said, ride this bit on a lot of horses, see how you get along with it. They did. He said, Bull, that's really a good bit. Fits a lot of horses. Then I give this bit to my good friend Brent Wright, who I make bits for. And I said, see how this bit will work on a reining horse. I call him up a couple months later. I said, Brent, how you getting along with that bit? And he said, good. He said, you don't need it right this minute, do you? And I said, no. He said, good, because I'm down here in Texas and I just won a big futurity riding that bit. And when Brent got home, he gave me the buckle that he won the futurity with. I'm really proud of that buckle that Brent Wright gave it to me, and also that he got along so good with my bit.
This segment brought to you by Sure Crop, liquid crop nutrition delivered right to your farm.
So, preparing yourself. This is where you move from just working with your peers to now I'm in charge of folks and I've got to influence people. So your decision making becomes more political. It's less about authority and more about influence. I will tell you that's very true on college campuses. You think we've got our own set of problems in Washington, D.C. I agree. Politics. But I will tell you that the politics at the university, they're pretty deep. And so what I've had to do is decide who are the people that I've got to align myself with and who do I need to talk to. So it's the issues are incredibly complex. A lot of things are really ambiguous. And that's what you're hired for when you become the new boss, is figure these sort of things out. So you've got to become effective at building and sustaining alliances. I will tell you in my department, amongst those 40 faculty, I've got 11 that were hired within the last 3 or 4 years. And I've got a bunch of old timers, kind of like me, and then I've got not very many people in between. We've got a really big generation gap. So trying to integrate those groups and make them all feel good about what they're doing. The young people are worried about, moving through the ranks of the university, and the old timers are like, oh, you guys just need to work hard and keep your head down, and they're not talking to each other too much. And so it's this thing about how do I build and sustain alliances amongst them. So looking at ways to influence. And then my boss, the dean. So I've got to work with her and a lot of politics.
Earlier in my life, I rode bucking horses and rodeos, and my shoulders took such a beating, and that was probably the reason for having several previous surgeries on both shoulders. About a year ago, I decided that I didn't want to have another surgery, and so I contacted Kansas Regenerative Medicine, took their treatment process. It was relatively pain-free. Now, after 8 months, my shoulders have healed to the point where I think I'm probably 90 to 95% of normal. It takes a couple of months to start to see results and feel real progress. That continued to increase gradually until now at approximately 8 months. And I'm extremely pleased. I've got full range of motion. I can lift weights, I can throw, I can do a lot of things that I couldn't do without a lot of pain previously. So I'm tickled to death with the results, and I'd recommend this process to anyone.
Ag Promo Source is a unique group of marketing specialists with one mission: help your ag business grow. Each affiliate has their own area of expertise, and they work together to bring you advice, products, and services. To get started, visit agpromosource.com. Ag Promo Source. Together we grow.
The new Better Horses Network is worldwide. Presented by Lucas Oil. Featuring worldwide radio and TV with iconic hosts like Al Dunning, Sharon Camarillo, Ernie Rodina, Lindy Birch, and Craig Cameron. With American Cowboy, Horse and Rider, Brushy Creek, Cavenders, and Ride TV. Worldwide radio and TV. The all-new Better Horses Network.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Corn. Learn more at kscorn.com.
So let's look at these different areas, and I think there's different strategies for each of them. So in a startup, it's what you might expect. You're the new boss. Your challenge is to assemble people, financing, buildings, all the things that you need for a business to get the new business off the ground. And the challenge then is to put that strategy and structure and all the systems into place from scratch. So you've been hired to put all those in place and make them work. The opportunities are to do things right from the beginning, and generally speaking, there's no preconceptions about how to do things or what the right way is, because it's a new business and nobody's done it in this space before. And so lots of opportunity and a lot of fun, maybe some challenges because it's not been done before. Contrast that then with the turnaround, and your goal there is saving a business that's in trouble. And so the challenges there are maybe re-energizing employees that are kind of down in the mouth, that are pretty demoralized. Maybe some of the stakeholders are not happy with how things are going. You've got to make some difficult decisions sometimes in situations like this. And the challenge there is this one, can you go deep enough with cuts and difficult financial and personnel choices? It takes a special type of person to be the boss in a turnaround situation, but I think it outlines well here that you're faced with these difficult decisions. You've got to make those choices and move forward. There are some positive things there. The opportunities is that generally speaking, everybody recognizes that there's need for change. And so if you come in and you make some very difficult decisions, people will go, wow, this person really recognizes that we've got to make some tough calls here. Sometimes affected stakeholders or constituents can offer support. Sometimes that comes from the bank saying, hey, you've got to make these changes, and they're behind you. And a little success sometimes goes a really long ways in making those choices and tough decisions that you have to make. The next strategy would be in accelerated growth, and that's where you're having to manage a rapidly expanding business. Again, I think a relatively positive thing to do. The challenges are putting those structures and opportunities in place to permit scaling up from where you started, and then how do you move forward, and then integrating new employees as a part of that. The opportunities are growth typically motivates employees to stretch themselves, and so hopefully everybody's happy, but you're really working them hard, maybe they won't be so happy. But I think many times people would prefer this model relative to the last one. The turnaround is perhaps a little tougher and maybe takes a really special type of somebody being a manager in that situation. So this sort of situation is perhaps a little more fun, but there's challenges there too. Okay, how do you manage that growth? How do you get enough inventory in? How do you manage the cash flow? Even hiring new employees. That's one of the things that since I started in my role, I think I've hired 8 new people just in our department. So how do I integrate those new employees into this organization?
Kim Mannering with Hardy Insurance. Today we will talk about umbrella coverage. Did you know that if your cattle get out, you could be held liable for that? Call me. Let's have a discussion. 316-945-6733.
Fort Wallace was the fightingest fort in the West. Fossils, Indians, soldiers, scouts, wagons, trails, pioneers, stories. Discover the story of Fort Wallace and the people who served here, the people who fought here, the people who settled here. Wallace County, where the past is present.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
The next type of strategy that Dr. Watkins outlines is a realignment. And as I said, this is the one that I associated closest with the role that I have taken on this past year and will be working on the next couple of years. So how do I re-energize a department that has been around for a long time? How do we work with the stakeholders that brought us to the party? So all the dairy farmers and the poultry farmers and the swine farmers and the beef farmers in Ohio, when 80% of our undergraduates did not grow up on a farm and want to go to vet school and work with dogs and cats and horses. And so there's really some differences there in terms of the audience that we serve as undergraduates and the stakeholder groups that we work with. So it's realigning some of those thoughts there. Sometimes this first piece, convincing employees that change is necessary. Maybe the metaphor is the boiling a frog in a pot. And when you put the frog in there and you start boiling it, and they just sit there because they don't know things are changing, but things are changing a lot. And so convincing employees or people that work with you that they really need to change sometimes is a challenge. And I think that's kind of where I'm at. I've got some folks that have been in our organization for a long time, and they're just not willing to change. And so my challenge is, do I outclass them, or I'm not going to probably fire them in the university system. So either some retirements, or I'm going to have to move them into some different positions so that we can get some people in that have some different outlooks. And I think that would be this next point: carefully restructure team and refocus the organization. And so that's probably the area that I've found the biggest challenge is take people that are interested in making the changes that need to happen and help them with you realign some of the strategy. So in almost every organization, when you have this realignment, there are going to be some pockets of strength that you can draw upon. In our organization, we've been around for a long time. We do a good job at educating people. Our extension work is good. Our relationship with stakeholders is good, but we need to ramp up some of those relationships and draw on those pockets of strength. And then I think most of the people that are involved in organizations want to see themselves as successful. So how can you use that to build on what you have to be continue to be successful? And so I've utilized that as well, where we've got strong programs and people are willing to continue those on or think of some new or different ways to move those programs forward. So those can provide you some.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.